Hi, it's Jason Tolmie here, and I'm here with Erin Clark.
Hello.
And we're going to take you through the little video workshops that are the follow-up to the character strength survey that hopefully everybody did last week. So hopefully you've done that survey. We're going to look at what that teaches us and how we can kind of use it to help improve our own well-being. If you haven't already done the survey, make sure you go to the VIA Institute and do that as soon as you can. So we're going to have a quick recap before we get into some conversations about the strengths. Hopefully you've got your top 5 strengths written down somewhere safe. Make sure you've got that with you now so that you can look at it as we work our way through. So what do these strengths mean? We'll just have a quick summary. Basically, they fall into 6 main categories, and we'll quickly whiz through those now. So the first category is wisdom, and you can see there are actually 5 different character strengths that fall under that category.
The next one is courage.
And you can see there's a few different ones that fall under that. Humanity, which has 3 of the strengths in that category.
Justice, there's 3 in that one as well.
Temperance, which kind of means restraint. And you can see that there's 4 there all around restraining yourself or having self-control.
And the last one is transcendence, so being present and noticing the good things in life.
So that one's an interesting one because a lot of my top 10 were in that category. So that was an interesting one for me. We've gone through that really quickly, but I've posted this article on the Google Classroom. Go there and have a look if you want to know more detail. There's lots of great information at that site. So what do you notice about you? Do your strengths fall under certain categories? Do you notice any trends? Have a quick look now and see if you can establish any kind of clear trends with which ones are in maybe your top 5 or top 10. What did you notice when you were doing this, Ez?
I noticed that from my top 5, 2 of them fell under courage, and in my top 10, 3 of them fell under wisdom, and the rest were quite varied.
Okay, so wisdom.
Yeah, so that means I'm wise.
We should pretty much just listen to everything you have to say.
Basically,
yep.
Everything I say is of value, correct, and wise.
I had, like I said, 4 of my top 10 were from transcendence. So obviously that's a big one for me, kind of noticing the beauty in the world and I guess kind of enjoying the simple things in life. So that's hopefully kind of held me in good stead. So hopefully you might have noticed some kind of trend in your top 5 or top 10. So how do these things help us? Well, first of all, we can talk about something like contentment or happiness, which is obviously a big one, but we know that some of the strengths like zest, hope, and love are the ones most connected with happiness. One example here is Claude Ingham, who's one of the psych teachers here. She had hope and zest both in her top 3. So I know that she's had a lot of medical issues and her husband has as well, and that's been something that they've really struggled with. And I imagine the zest and the hope for her has been a really big part of how she's responded really positively to those kind of negative events. So you can kind of use your top strengths in new ways to help increase your well-being and decrease your susceptibility to things like depression or other kind of issues. So for example, something like relationships, which we know are a vitally important part of having a good sense of well-being. So recognizing and appreciating the character strengths of those around you will help improve your relationships. One example for me is my wife, Alex. 2 of her top strengths were curiosity and love of learning. And I think having her do this and me learn that about her has really helped reframe some of the conversations that we have together, where previously, I might have thought that we were kind of arguing, but really she was just wanting to kind of explore something new or kind of satiate her curiosity. So yeah, things like parenthood, she might share an article with me and say, hey, I'd like to see what you think about this. And instead of me seeing that as a potential kind of, her saying you're not a good parent or whatever. It's more just her constantly kind of striving and looking for new things to kind of soak up and learn, which has been really great for our relationship. As you had a bit of a different perspective here, which was cool.
Yeah, so with my job in particular, forming relationships is a big part of that. And I found that my top 2, fairness and honesty, help that in the sense that using fairness, I approach people in a non-judgmental way. So not taking any notice of where they've come from or anything like that, but taking them as they are.
And then honesty was your second one, right? So I imagine just being kind of a relatively open person, being honest or having that integrity probably helps you build relationships as well?
Yeah, I think that when people are around people who are authentic and honest, it allows them to feel empowered to be the same. And so I find that honesty, although it can get me in trouble sometimes because I don't have a very good filter, in the scheme of things is really good for building healthy relationships.
So we'll talk about the honesty maybe later on when we talk about overplaying strengths.
Yeah.
So you can see how lots of different strengths can come into play here. The next one we've got is dealing with problems. So obviously knowing and embracing your character strengths will help you build resilience, help you kind of understand what you can do to solve problems and kind of buffer you against potential issues.
So do you have an example of that?
Well, the one that I had was Rob Smethills. He did this survey as well, and he told me his top 3 strengths were love, humor, and social intelligence. And the thing that immediately came to mind was when he was dealing with the problem of organizing the Wellbeing Expo last year. He took care of that. That was a massive kind of stressful job. And I think the love and the social intelligence were big factors there. Social intelligence, getting people on board, a really diverse range of staff and students, and love, being the fact that he really wanted to see this succeed and be beneficial for the students. And there was a fair bit of humour in there as well in the conversations that he and I had. I think in the end, probably it was great for everybody's well-being except for his. But that was the example that I had there. The last one we've got here is self-esteem. So using your character strengths to your advantage obviously can help give you a sense of achievement, which will lead to higher levels of self-esteem and self-confidence and that kind of thing. So I guess what we're trying to say here is that drawing on strengths and approaching things from a kind of strengths perspective can be a really kind of powerful tool. Instead of thinking about something in terms of what you're doing wrong, you can kind of see how your strengths can be utilized to achieve something, which is really cool.
So I think an example of that for me is perspective and bravery, which are numbers 3 and 5 for me. So perspective, when I work with others and help others, that increases my self-esteem and level of self-confidence. And also bravery, when I do things that challenge me or scare me, if I do them, then I feel like I've achieved something and my self-esteem increases.
Yeah, so even though you may not have the skills or the confidence, you've still got that bravery that kind of just sends you leaping off the cliff. Exactly. And then you get to the bottom and you splash into the river or whatever and you're like, yeah, I'm so glad I actually went for it.
That's right.
Yeah. So what we'd like you guys to do now, we're going to end this first little video, and I want you guys to just kind of pause and reflect for a minute and maybe jot down how one of your strengths has helped you build relationships, and then how another strength, a different strength, maybe in your top 5 or top 10, has helped you build your sense of contentment or your self-esteem or your well-being. So we'll pause there, and once you've done that task, we'll start the second little video session.